Welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast, where host John and Andy take you on a journey of liberation away from the 9-to-5 grind. Explore side hustles, remote work, and the skills to help you unlock true freedom. Brought to you by freedomskillsacademy.com, this podcast is your gateway to independence and financial empowerment.
Okay, so episode 68. Welcome along. So we're talking about retirement in the 21st century, especially with some sort of online twists. So, Andy, how you doing? Do you want to sort of lead us in tonight's episode?
Yeah, not too bad yourself.
Yeah, right, thank you.
Yeah, well, basically, we all want to retire. Everybody wants to retire comfortably, and but the way things are going at the moment, it's not looking like people are going to retire like our grandparents did. The Forbes magazine just recently quoted. It said something, I believe the concept of starting a business for retirement income will become one of the most significant trends impacting retirement in the 21st century. I believe that was probably quoting Robert Laura, author of The Naked Retirement. And the reason why they said that is because you know full well that there's been talk about the UK government pushing up the retirement age from 65 up to 295 or whatever it is. It's for women, it went from 62 up to 65, and then it's soon going to go. They keep pushing the retirement age back because we know full well that, I don't know if it's overpopulation. I prefer to think of it more as mismanagement of the government because they're only in there for 4 years and they're there to line their own pockets. But the pension schemes basically are starting to run low, and they reckon within 15 years there'll be no pension schemes, government pension schemes. So they're pushing the retirement age up for people purposely so that they are paying less out to start with, and the older people are still working, so they're putting national insurance and money into cover for the pensions they're paying now. So by the time you and I come to retire at 65, 68, 925, whatever age they choose for us, is that there's probably going to be bugger all in the pension schemes. So years ago in our grandparents' day, they used to call financial advisors used to talk about the 3-stool pension sort of scheme, which was basically when you retired, you would then have your income, your retirement would be funded by your personal savings, a social security or government pension, and an employee pension. Now these are changing, firstly because your personal savings, as you know, the banks aren't paying a huge amount on investment, on interest on personal savings, unless you have stuck them into some sort of, I don't know, hedge funds or investments in other things. But personal savings are not actually earning enough for them to be an income. We've talked about the government pensions. They could come to an end soon. And then the employee pensions. Now, years ago, there used to be employee pensions. There used to be big pension schemes. Then they got too expensive and lots of companies stopped. But the government, the UK government at least, have started work-based pensions again. So they put the onus back onto the companies so that they didn't have to have so much pressure. But a lot of companies used to stop doing that because it got too expensive. And I also remember many years ago talking to a friend of mine. His dad was an electrician, and I think it was around 98, probably 2000. There was a problem. The government needed some more money, so they actually basically went in and taxed pensions, and his pension pot, which he was supposed to be getting from his workplace, was nearly virtually wiped out. I remember him moaning, saying that whatever he'd been paying into his pension at work, and it all went up in smoke. So basically, they're trying to say is that you cannot rely, which we've always thought, you can't rely on the government to look after you, but they're saying that there's this new retirement way, and that is you have to basically have your personal pension. So most people should have a personal pension. There's the government pension, but then the third part of this new stool is to have your own, I'm going to say, second income. They've called it online retirement income in this report I was reading the other day. But basically what they're trying to say is that to fund your retirement, you need a second source of income that is at least semi-passive just to retire. You're not going to be able to retire on pensions and savings and sit back with your feet up.
No.
You've got to have a second source of active income.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? It's a terrible state of affairs, really. I mean, I only talked about this the other day on TikTok. Britain now, You know, I mean, obviously other countries and a lot of other countries are feeling the pinch as well. But Britain, it seems like now it's normal now to be sort of like working two jobs, three jobs, both. You know, you get a household, you get like a husband and wife, both of them working full time and maybe doing other jobs as well. That's
Yeah,
kind of normal now. Whereas, you know, years ago that would be unheard of. You know, one wage, my parents' generation, one wage was enough. One wage
yeah,
was enough. You know, my old man was enough, his wage was enough to fund everything, the house, cars, holidays, everything like that. And nowadays it's bad. And they obviously done all right out of it. That's the sort of boomer generation, I think, isn't it? They're called. You know,
yeah.
they done all right out of it because they got the massive, you know, they bought houses for next to nothing and they're all now worth £500,000 and fine, you know, that's fine. Um, but yeah, I think like you say, this generation now, certainly our generation, we're going to be working till later. Um, I mean, I'd imagine if you got a workplace pension now, you'd probably be looking at, I mean, I don't know, it could be pushing 70 really, couldn't it, by the time, you
The
know,
other thing about work-based
we get there.
pensions is that over the years, I've swapped in the last 20 years, I've swapped several jobs. I've got like three different work-based pensions
Mm,
from different companies, and I really, really, this is me. I should really sort of get involved, but wait, and get them all sort of put together and figure out what I'm doing. But basically, I do have these like three. I get letters from these other companies from saying about this pension. Because there's no work security or people move on job swap and that, you haven't really paid a lot into these pots in the first place.
no.
And I've got like three different pensions in different places, and
You
quite
can
frankly,
get
I don't think they're going to be worth out.
no, yeah, there's an app you can get where it links it all together. I remember seeing it. But
Mm.
yeah, I should point out, you know, we're by no means we're not we're not financial advisors in any of this. We're not telling you what to do with your pension pots or anything like that. What we are talking about though is basically at the top of the show what you mentioned in that article, and that is that, you know, it's almost like being a drive now for more and more people to seek employment, not employment, to seek um money and revenue and earning from other avenues. And obviously, one of those avenues is one that we talk about all the time, and that is to create sort of like online businesses. Now, there's a whole host of stuff, you know, that
Yeah.
you can do. So people might be thinking, you know, how do I start with that? And, you know, the answer is don't really know. There's a hell of a lot that you can do. Just quickly going back, and then we'll delve into the stuff that people can do online.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned about like things like the pensions and everything like that. They're not 100% safe anyway, because I remember a friend of mine at work, he was just about when this was going back maybe 3, 4 years, whenever the pandemic was on. He was looking, I remember him looking at his pension, and then the COVID hit, and it wiped something like 30% off of his pot because all the markets crashed, didn't they? Because
Yeah.
everything stopped, you know, like the world shut down. They were paying out all sorts of furlough money. So he was just about to retire, and then it dropped down 30%. Now, you imagine if, you know, I think he chose then to work on for a couple of years because he kind of had to,
Yeah.
um, because literally it just dropped, it just plummeted, and it was completely out of his control, completely out. He had no say in any of it, you know, and that was it. Whereas, kind of what we're sort of saying is if you have something that you own and that you've built, you know, albeit a website, albeit a, you know, email list, albeit a, you know, your own online business selling digital products, or whether it's an Etsy store, or, you know, there's a whole load of stuff that people can get into. You own that, right?
Mm.
And that is yours. And then, you know, you can kind of nurture it and grow it as big as you want, scale it as much as you want. Um,
That's it. Yeah. I mean, nothing's 100% safe. And like you say,
no.
pensions are riding on the markets, aren't they?
Mm,
So, I mean, like I say, my mate's dad, all those years ago, and bless him, he's now in a home with dementia. So I don't know what he's benefiting from it. But I remember he was saying Gordon Brown taxed his pension, and it was just worthless for these workers for what they thought. Um, but yeah, it's the world is sort of changing, and as you say, we're not financial advisors, but it seems that the financial advice that most people are saying, and which, to be fair, I don't think you need to be a financial advisor to recognize this. and that is, if you can, get yourself an active income, which is one of the reasons why we want to do digital products. We want to do digital products and ebooks and stuff like that, because then if they're evergreen, they're things that can keep selling.
Yeah.
Yes, we would love to sell a lot more than what we do, but if you get to a point where you're selling several copies of an ebook per day, that is income that is coming in.
Mm.
And it's not reliant and suddenly hitting 24 and you're just about to hit your hitting 64 and you're about to have your 65th birthday, and then the government suddenly push up the retirement age by 7 years or so. It's, you're not sort of, it's in your hands, so to speak, as you say.
I think I'd want to just quickly point out now, like you said, you just touched on it just back then, but and it feels really bad, doesn't it? It feels really bad and awful to say this, but this is the brutal reality now. And this is what everyone needs to get in their heads. And it's quite a harsh thing to say, but no one's coming to help you. Right, at the end of the
No.
day, no one's coming to help you. If you're struggling, and I mean, bad state financially, and you think your government are going to help you, they're not. Okay, you've got to really sort of get that into your head. Okay, obviously there are certain benefits and things like that, but you almost you're almost better off forgetting that and just. Oh, that's why now I don't really. I used to be quite keen and quite a sort of activist when it came to voting, and I really care about what government got in. But now I almost don't really, because they don't. No one's. Is it, how much is it really going to impact me as an individual? Sure, there are certain policies that I'm really passionate about, but on the whole, generally, you've got to just do things on your own now. You've just got to get that in your head. You've got to just get out there and do stuff on your own. And one of the things I really like to think about is people say, oh, savings and everything like that, save money, save. That is a good strategy, to a degree. You should obviously be a little bit careful with your money, but savings is capped, right? You can only save so much of what you earn every month, right? However, your earning potential is limitless. Okay, you can earn whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I always think of it better. It's better almost to go on the attack than it is to be sort of like defensive when it comes to these things. There's a whole load of opportunities out there, an absolute whole load of opportunities out there, which we talk about all the time. We document on social media platforms. We share on YouTube. You write about them on the blog. We do a load of these things anyway. And these are all available for anyone, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like the way people have to kind of shift. They really need to just shift that mindset, because there's only so much that you can save. If you're earning, say, £3,000 a month, time you've taken everything else out, your rent, your bills, your mortgage, or whatever it is, food, car, petrol, insurance, you're only left with a certain amount. So therefore, you can only put a certain amount away. Yeah. However, everyone's got 24 hours in a day. Once you've done your working day, and you can commit another 2 hours a day to like a little side hustle, or perhaps another little project, gradually over time, that project's going to grow. And then soon enough, you're going to start making sales. Then soon enough, that project is going to get bigger and bigger. And then it's up to you then what you do with it. And that earning level is just whatever you want. Okay, you can just keep on going with it. You could hire people, you could expand, you could rebranch out, you could do it again. You know what I mean? And it just becomes this, not I would say exponential. It's not going to go completely off the sales, but your earning potential is uncapped. Yeah. Whereas your savings isn't. So people need to kind of get that in their head.
I mean, unless you're getting paid an absolute fortune for sort of a job role, you will make more money making money than trying to save money. I know it's all a different sort of discussion, but I always it sort of kind of made me laugh when people were struggling, and it was like we nearly needed to cut back, so they would stop their £5 a month magazine subscription.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not. I mean, yes, it may help a little, but it's not going actually to help you. You're probably best having your £5 subscription, because you get the magazine you like. It keeps you're not miserable.
Sanity.
Once get your bit of sanity, and then try and work. I mean, we know people don't want to spend their lives working hard,
No.
You don't want to come home from work and then have to do another 5-hour shift and then just go straight to bed.
Mm.
That's not what life's about. We don't want people to do that, but we also want people to recognise the fact is, as you said, the governments aren't going to help you out. They're not helping the youth out. I mean, if they were, there wouldn't be such a housing crisis. It is because, I mean, I remember discussing this with my old man. He was talking about sort of youngsters and housing. It's like the wages have not gone up enough, but house prices have increased exponentially. And these young people cannot get the mortgages because the mortgage people are coming around and saying, "Oh, we either you're not earning enough, or we don't think you can pay the mortgage." And they're sat there saying, "Your mortgage is like £500 a month or £600 a month. Yet I've been paying a rent of 1,100 for the last 12 months. How can you not say that I cannot afford a mortgage?" And it just seems to be society at the moment seems to be geared up for the incredibly wealthy. And I've never really truly gone down that route of thinking. And the government haven't stepped in to help the youngsters, have they? They're not stepped in to help
No.
people. They're not helped, especially in the UK. I don't know about anywhere else, but they're not helped out with this cost of living crisis. We've got electric and gas companies having these $1 billion in profits,
Yeah.
pushing the prices up, and people are struggling. They're not going in and say, "Hold on, no."
No.
They aren't helped out, so
They
they're not
don't
going to
care
help
one
them out.
bit.
So no, and so
But
you've got to
we've
help
just had it
yourself out.
round our way now. The water companies have just advertised how much they want to increase their rates by. So our one, where we are, Southern Water, they want to increase 91% by 2030, and that
Wow.
is ludicrous. If you look at what like you say, profits, you know, dividends, bonuses that they're all getting, like the big payouts to the shareholders, that's just sort of the private kind of like capitalism model, you know what I mean? Just and like you say, there'll be people that will be struggling that won't be able to pay this stuff. And so I just want to talk a little bit about something else. So I've put a series out on TikTok, which is like £5 a day. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is real basic stuff. So this is like, surveys, eBay, or freelancing work or anything like that. And on there, I'm literally showing how to do it, right? People can follow along and this, that, and the other, but it's really basic. You know what I mean? That's just £35 a week, but £35 a week, £140 a month. Okay. And all that amounts to is really, really simple tasks. And on that, you could earn up to the target is £1,825 per year. Okay. For doing really basic stuff. Now, I'd challenge anyone that they'll be able to do that. And this is what we're talking about when I'm talking about your savings are capped, your earnings uncapped. So you can get that, and that would be that's quite an easy target to get to, right? So 1,825 a year. Now, if you just took that and you invested it into something which has got like a 10% annual return, of which there's a lot of things, okay? There's a lot of funds and things like that, and ISAs and everything. But you can put that in, and and over like 10, 20 years, that would grow into like a substantial amount of money. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's kind of like the sort of message we're sort of getting across here. And that's at a very basic level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I think I think the whole concept here is to try and get people to think about this, because once you hit your 65 or 67 retirement age, yes, you can start a business, but if you can start it in your 40s, 50s early, then you've got a greater chance by the time you hit retirement age, you've got something that's coming in that's semi-passive that's going to sort of help pay
mm,
its way. I can't remember the actual figures, but I remember we talked about this a while back, and we'll probably talk about this in another podcast. But I did remember reading somewhere that said that your chances of becoming a millionaire was far greater if you were actually to start to build your own website and sell it, build it up and sell it. You could actually become a millionaire sort of like within sort of 10 years. Whereas if you were to try and just basically save your money in, sort of putting in a savings account just each month, it would take you like forever. But so if you were to start working on a website now at your 40s, I mean, things are changing. This is what we're going to discuss in another podcast. Thanks to AI, Google search and Bing search is no longer sending so much traffic to websites.
mm,
However, there are different ways to market websites, as we know, through social media and TikTok and stuff like that,
mm,
even though they like to keep the links in platform. But there are ways to get to people to websites. But you can build a website, you can build a service, you can build some form of whatever it is, some digital products.
mm.
Once you start doing those and selling them, you have a greater chance of retiring with more money than you do than just selling them. Like you said, it's that active. There's no limit to how much you can earn.
No.
You know what I mean? So once you've created one digital product, you can create another. I mean, I remember, if this is what anybody's into, if they're into creating digital products or ebooks, there was a guy who had like, he called it like his 12-step plan, and that was if you wanted to earn an extra 12 grand a year, then his idea was to create an ebook and try and basically get that till it was earning $1,000, £1,000,
Mm.
then build another one, and
Mm.
then another one,
Yeah.
and another one. So once that's then basically, I mean, that was only like £1,000 over the whole year, which,
Mm.
as you've said, is like, well, it's less than £5 a day, isn't it? Because your £5 a day comes to,
1,800 odd, 1,825. Yeah.
so you only need to sell like one book at £5 a
Mm.
day, and you're
Mm.
making between 1,800. So if
Yeah.
you had 12 of those doing that for the whole year, that's over 12 grand.
Mm.
That's not bad income for, but then it's like you said, some of your books will probably go crazy, some will be a bit less, but they bring each
Mm.
other up. But the more you've got out there, but he called it, it's like, he says a lot of authors are out there thinking, I want to write this book and make thousands with one book. And he's like, no, think of one book and just aim for 1,000 a year
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Just
then
do
do
it
another.
bit by bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think that, people got to think about like as well, like, I don't know about, I'd imagine that there are people in, positions now that probably think to themselves, what am I going to do when I retire? You know what I mean? They have this sort of
Mm.
like, you hear of these stories. I know a lot of people, great, they've got their whole life planned out and this, that, and the other. But a lot of people probably think, I'm going to have a fair bit of time on my hands. I know obviously health is a big factor on this. Yeah, it's a huge
Yeah.
factor on this. Um, but I mean, you've sort of come in contact with some people. I mean, you work with millionaires who are, you know, we're not, older than us, should we say? Um, and hugely, hugely successful. Do you know what I mean? And it's just getting that kind of mindset. I know that some of the people that we've worked with in the past have been doing this for a long time, and they've got a bit of obviously they've got a background, they've got a history, they've got an establishment and that. But I see it regularly now. I am what I consider a newbie on TikTok. Okay, and when
Mm.
I say a newbie, I mean like under 6 months. And the amount of accounts I see of older people, so like 60s plus, yeah, with huge followings on there. And I mean like 50,000, 100,000 followers, right? And they can make money all within that app. They don't need anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't need anything. They can make money from totally within that app. Yeah.
Mm.
There's multiple ways in which you can make money with that platform. Now, I'm not saying put all your eggs in one basket and rely just on that platform. Our advice is always just kind of like build a list if you can, build a website. If you're going to sell products, try and sell them through that, and everything like that. That's fine. But as a starting base, that's an incredible tool. Um,
I think
and
we did a podcast about it, didn't we, the other week? We
yeah,
talked about short form video on your mobile phone, and it is
mm,
phenomenal when you think about what you can do. And the other thing is slightly going off topic again, but it's helpful, and that is you can use your smartphone to do things like your sports trading, which is tax free if anybody's ever interested in doing that, because you love a dabble on that.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that I'm definitely going to be exploring more of in the next, I don't
Mm.
know, 12 to 18 months for sure. And, I'll be documenting that. But, I've done enough of that to kind of know enough about it. Do you know what I mean? I've done okay with it in the past. Um, and yeah, like you say, that's an incredible model for people to, get involved in. And again, exactly the same. I've worked alongside people and I've spoke with people who are, you know, almost in retirement, certainly in retirement already, like late 60s, early 70s. They're doing really well with that. You know what I mean?
With my work, I often get emails from people who are in their 70s. I've had a conversation just this week with I think it was a woman in her 70s, 71, and there's a guy who's 87. And it is scary when you consider that some of these people are emailing the company and asking about what product can do this, what can do that, because they need help with they need some extra money
Mm,
for their retirement, or one the other day was they've got some damage in the house that was something happened in winter. I think pipes had frozen and there'd been some water damage, and they need to basically pay that off, to pay the repairs off. They haven't got any money coming in for it, and so they're needing like extra money. And these are people in their retirement age, and you think, that's you do need to have a decent amount of money coming in, so you need to have something to help because it's looking very bleak. We're looking very bleak. So I think the whole premise of this discussion really is if you're in your, I'll say your 30s, but if you're in your 40s and your 50s, at least consider creating a second income that you can work on, that you can take into retirement, because you're going to need it.
That's the key message in it from this. I think the key message from this podcast is if you're in the age of, I mean, if you're young, if you're below 30, then good luck to you. You got start now, but you got a bit of time. But if you're in like, between sort of 30 and 50 or 30 and 60, then seriously consider it. Seriously consider getting into something online. I think as well, like the general landscape of education is changing nowadays. I think like the next generation, like my kids' generation and that, things like university and that might not even become a talking point anymore because there's so many more other opportunities now. You don't need a university degree to be in the top earning brackets anymore. I guess PAYE and employment you probably do, but not everyone's taking that route anymore. Loads and loads of people now are kind of, wising up to the game of starting their own businesses, and they're seeing all these other opportunities now, and they're seeing how much potential there is with other things that it might not even be the option for a lot of kids now, and I think that's brilliant. That shift in the whole education system anyway is a little bit flawed, and you could say it's almost geared towards a sort of debt driven. You know what I mean? You get a massive mortgage and a massive loan with your university, and you're kind of your hands are tied for the next 30, 40 years. But
the thing with the university thing, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of pros and cons against university. I know people I've worked for in the past were very anti-university because they believe that, as well, if you go through university and you just find out you're doing the wrong job, you kind of feel like you spent a lot of time working on it, and some people refuse to go and do something else, so they get trapped in jobs they don't want. University has been great for, I suppose, political positions, but I think technology has changed that now because you in the sort of the 20s, 30s, whether you went to university, your family were all very proud of you, and you probably guaranteed to get a better job because you went to university. And I think technology is destroying that class war, that class distinction, that class thing, because now you've got youngsters who are in their 18s who have become Instagram and YouTube influencers who have bought their house and their parents' house before they've hit 20.
Yeah, crazy.
YouTube, and it's no longer about necessarily who you are, what your education is. It's about, I suppose, it's a combination of the digital product, the digital age, getting out in front of people, and the way money is generated these days differently, and that's open to virtually anyone. And like you said, I can't think of a name, Mama somebody, and there's Instagram and TikTok. There are people on there who are in their 60s who are doing baking and cooking or cleaning and stuff like that. And they have huge followings, and and health and diet tips for people over 50, 60. So it's leveling the playing field, and it's giving other people the opportunity now to become somebody or something as a way to generate extra income.
And generally, though, it comes down to three categories, doesn't it? Generally, the way to make money generally comes down to three categories. Number one is I'd say investment, i.e. winning it, gambling it, or investing. So like stuff that grows, a pot that you can grow.
Yeah.
Number two is education. And number three is entertainment. They're usually the only three things. Education, i.e. educating people or solving a problem. So that could be in the form of a product, or, if you're going to do online stuff, it's educating people, like you mentioned then, a cooking channel or whatever. But then with that, you could also bring out, a load of your own tools and cooking devices, and you could become an affiliate for certain brands, and you could
Yeah.
get sponsorship deals, and you could even get your own TV show and everything. There's a whole load of stuff that can come with that. And then the other one, which is, entertainment. So you mentioned like these 18-year-olds and that's usually that sort of era. So it
Yeah.
might be entertainment, or it might be like,
Gaming.
physical gaming, or, like gym or workout videos, which could also be education as well. And yeah, and they're usually the only three sort of ways. I'd say the majority tends to fall into that middle bracket, which is the education, help, and that sort of that tends to be, I'd say, the biggest pot. If you can generally help people out, if you can educate people, then usually, there is a demand for that type of thing. And don't worry about if it's been done before, because everything's been done before. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of like the way to approach it, really.
Wasn't it Jim Rohn who said, was it Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar? I think it was Jim Rohn who said, you can have anything you want as long as you help others get what they want.
Yeah.
So basically, like you said, with the information, if you help people how to do something, if you help them offer them a service or an education, then you can be rewarded quite highly. There's a lot of money in the information publishing information world. You said something there was interesting about people who do their sort of YouTube channels of cooking and stuff like that can end up on TV. A lot of people have done end up on TV from certain things like that, but we're also at that stage. What we were talking about earlier about technology is that TV now is. I think I heard something that was saying that like online radio is actually now and streaming is replacing normal radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers are replacing that. So basically, you can actually become your own TV channel without actually having to be on TV.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you use YouTube and broadcast once a week at 7 o'clock on whatever, and
Mm,
you yourself become a TV celebrity without
absolutely.
being on TV.
Oh, I don't doubt that. That'll be 100% the way it'll go. You'll have so many more independent stuff. We kind of already do that now. I watch probably just as much YouTube as I would normal terrestrial television. Whereas
Mm,
years ago that would have been nowhere near like that. Even your smart, like your big TV now, has got YouTube on it and everything like that, isn't it? So,
mm,
and the kids, that's kind of that's almost their go-to now. They put the telly on, they put YouTube on. They won't put the telly on, the channels. They go
yeah.
straight to YouTube. That's their first thought. Um, and then they know their channels they like, so they go down to their 3 or 4 channels that they've got on YouTube, and then they
Mm.
go and watch them. Exactly that.
So that's the. I mean, don't want to go too get too deviating from what we are saying before, but we're just trying to highlight the fact that there's so much now new opportunity, technology, and tools that we can start to build an online income, which is, like I said, it's something that was mentioned in Forbes magazine, and that is in the 21st century. We are now looking at a position where to fund your retirement, some of the big people, the big corporations, the big financial people are saying is you can't rely on your pensions, you can't rely on your government, you can't rely on your savings. You need to have an active income.
Mm,
And so that's what we're sort of trying to say here. And tools, like I say, with YouTube, we're seeing it's just a whole new world out there for anybody. It amazes me when you see these people who say that, or they don't know what to do, or that there's nothing that they can do, and it's like, well, actually, we've
mm.
never been this. Today is the best time ever in all of human history for people to make money from the comfort of their own home.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
never been a better time ever.
No. And if you're stuck again of what niche to go into, just think about those three sort of pillars that I talked about before, and you'll probably find that in the middle one, education, can you solve a problem for somebody? And I'll bet you, if you really think about it, you almost certainly can. And then once you kind of, it's almost like the brainstorming thing. That's your, once you get that first thing out, let's say it's, I don't know, you're really good at chess. I mean, I've just literally thought that. But, all of a sudden you could become a chess, and then you could talk about all these different strategies. You could talk about all these different moves, all these different, you know, like defense setups,
Mm.
and then before you know it, you've got 500 followers on, let's say, a social media channel, right? And then those out of that, you then could say, well, I mean, if everyone's all right, I was going to put together a little PDF, and I was just going to put all my little strategies in one guide. Um, and then I'm just going to sell it for $5. Would anyone be interested? And then 100 of them people are going to say, yeah, definitely, I would like that. And then before you know it, you've sold your first $500 worth of stuff, and then your YouTube channel grows, and then you could maybe start doing lives and things like this. And then before you know it, I don't know, a game has decided to reach out and they want you to go on and sell their product for them and talk about it, and they'll give you a 20% affiliate commission. And that all started from you knew you were good at one thing and you think you could probably help some other people as well. And that's kind of how it all starts. So yeah, some people just got to go for it.
I'm seeing, as you know, we've been studying a lot of the high ticket affiliate marketers and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people who are in their sort of 50s, 60s who are coming into this as a way to supplement their pensions or to create an online business to give themselves freedom. Because with that, again, the education side of things is that they can earn more money. You know what I mean? So like a traditional affiliate marketer will probably try and use or did do things like Amazon on a website, and for every item they sold, they got like, was it 4 or 5%? But with which could be minimal if you're only selling something that's $20 or $50.
Yeah.
But with some of these, they're earning like $500, $250 to $1,000 per sale. And they're doing that using basically the smartphone. I just saw today a woman get a mention for doing another high ticket sale. She's in England. I won't mention her name. I follow on Facebook and I've spoken to her a few times. And all she does is she was on about it there. She got into the habit of she films herself just taking the dog for a walk and talking. So she films herself and she publishes these as stories on Facebook, probably maybe do a few reels, and then has conversations within people within Facebook Messenger. But it's all done through her phone. And the majority of it is that she just basically every morning, every day, she'll do a couple of videos that goes onto Facebook stories, and she's just talking about her day, walking the dog. And then she'll say, and if you'd like to earn $1,000 per sale or something like I have just this week or something, just send me a message and we'll talk.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's her supplementing her or changing her future, creating an active career.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, that's brilliant. I think we should probably wrap up, but that's that final point really, we've told this before, people buy from other people, don't they? You know what I mean? And like you say, if she's built up an audience, people resonate with her, they like her. In some ways, I think, maybe as you get a bit older as well, you're more likely to get a bit more trust from people around your age. I don't know if that makes sense, but do you know what I mean? Maybe they'll find that, they want to deal with, they don't want to go down and deal with like the 20-year-old. They'd rather deal with people in their kind of like
people
age.
They identify with, they align with.
Yeah, and they can, they've got a lot in common and stuff. But yeah, okay. Well, good chat. I know we sort of deviated a little bit a couple of times as we always do, but hopefully there was some value in there. And
yeah, it was all relevant in some way. Relevant.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much for listening, and we'll speak to you on the next one.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Freedom Hustles podcast. We hope you found inspiration and insights to help fuel your journey towards freedom. Don't forget to join our free newsletter at freedomskillsacademy.com/newsletter, where you can find exclusive tips, updates, and resources to help elevate your hustle. Until next time, keep hustling towards your dreams.